right, if you're not quite finished with the warm-ups, no big deal. We're just going to go ahead and talk about these answers. So in this problem, we're solving for x, and it's already factored for us. Does anybody know what we do if it's already factored for us? This is saying that these two numbers, these two values multiplied together have to give us 0. What do you know about one of these two if they're going to multiply to be 0? How do we get 0 when we multiply? What do you multiply by to get 0? 0. So what I know is if these two values are going to be multiplied together to give us 0, that means that either x minus 5 must equal 0 or x plus 3 must equal 0. Isn't that true? That if these two are going to multiply and give us 0, doesn't either this factor have to be 0 or that factor has to be 0? That's a true statement. That's an algebra concept. So now we're going to add 5 to both sides, and we're going to get x equals 5. Or subtract 3 from both sides, and we get x equals negative 3. So let's check that. If x is 5, 5 minus 5 is 0, 5 plus 3 is 8. Is it true that 0 times 8 would be 0? Yeah. All right, let's check negative 3. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. Is negative 8 times 0, 0? Yes. So those are the two solutions. Now, let me show you how you could do this on your calculator. Just watch. You don't need to follow along. What I did was I put the first function in y sub 1. I said x minus 5 times x plus 3. Into y sub 2, I just put in 0. If I want us all to have the standard screen, I'm going to do a zoom 6 for zoom standard. Here's the way it looks. What if I want to see the bottom of the parabola? What do I have to change? Window. What am I going to do? Make the y what? Min or max? Y min smaller. Let's try negative 20. I don't know if it'll work. Let's see. All right, now we can see the bottom of it. So look what I did again. So to solve this, I put in my left side of the equation, and then I put in the right side of the equation. I'm trying to find out where they're equal. So if I go to second trace, what's going to tell me where they're the same? Where they do what? Intersect. So I'm going to go down to number 5. I can also just push the number 5. Now it's going to say, is this your first curve, y sub 1? I say enter by hitting yes. Is your second curve y equals 0? I'm going to hit enter to say yes. And now I'm going to push enter one more time, and it tells me the answer is negative 3. Isn't that one of the answers we got when we solved it? Negative 3. All right, now let's do the same thing to find the other answer. Second trace, number 5. Now I have to get close over here to be able to find the other one. I'm going to arrow over before I do the intersect. Second trace, intersect, number 5. Enter, 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 and it gives me the other solution of 5. You can solve equations on your calculator by doing that. It's kind of nice. All right, let's look at this one. You could do it on the calculator like I just showed you, but you can also look at the fact that this is all factored. This is a factor, this is a factor, this is a factor. We're multiplying them all together. One of these factors, it has to be 0 for us to get a 0. Can negative 2 ever equal 0? No, we're not even going to worry about that factor. X minus 4 could equal 0, or x plus 2 could equal 0. What are the solutions going to be to this? Who got it? What did you say, Jeremy? 1. You got it. It has to be one of these two. Either x has to be 4 or x has to be negative 2. Now, just real quick, I want to show you the graphing implications of that problem. So if I put in negative 2 times x minus 4 times x plus 2. I'm going to graph it just with the old screen I had. So look at these points here. Do you see how I have 4 and I have negative 2? What's another name for those points where they cross the x-axis? X-intercepts. Those are x-intercepts. What do you think is going to be in the middle of the x-intercepts? Axis of symmetry is correct. You are right. So immediately in between these two would have to be the axis of symmetry. Now I can't see the top, so I'm going to go to my window. What do I need to make larger to see the top of it? Y max. Okay, so I'll make it 20. Oops, not 2, 20. And now let's take a look, see if we can see the height. Okay, so what's in the middle of 4 and negative 2? What's in the middle of those two numbers? 1. If I put x equals 1, can you see how that would go right through there and make it split in half? That's the kind of thing we're going to talk about today in our notes. Okay? So either bring up your notes on your Google Drive, or I still have some paper copies. If you prefer a paper copy, there's plenty over there if you want to grab one. That's for all of Chapter 2. And we're looking at the second part of section 2.2, and we want to be able to find properties of quadratics that are in this form. We can have f of x equals a times x minus p times x minus q. We're going to look at these properties. This is saying because f of p would be 0 and f of q would be 0, p and q are the x-intercepts of the graph of the function. That's what I just showed you. In our first example, we had x minus 5. And what was the x-intercept when we had x minus 5 in that first warm-up problem? 5. My second problem was x plus 3. Well, x plus 3 can be thought of as x minus negative 3. So that's the reason why that one ended up being the negative 3. Okay? The axis of symmetry is halfway between these 2 points, between these two x-intercepts. That's what I just told you. So it's telling us that the axis of symmetry is x equals p plus q divided by 2. Does anybody know why that makes sense? What are we doing when we add two numbers divided by 2? Toku, what are we doing? Finding the average, right. So to find the middle of any two numbers, we add the two numbers and we divide by the number of numbers we have. We have 2 in this case. This is something we already know. If a is greater than 0, the parabola opens up. If a is less than 0, it opens down. All right, look at this problem. It says to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Well, to do this, we have to start off by finding those x-intercepts. In other words, the x-intercepts are what make y equal 0. Remember, f of x is y. We want to know, what is it that makes y equal 0? Guys, what do we do? Can negative 2 ever equal 0? No. What's going to make this one equal 0? 4. And what's going to make this one equal 0? Negative 2. Here's what we're doing, everyone. We're doing x minus 4 equals 0, adding 4. We just did this problem. It's the same exact problem as the warm-up. Okay, so we have these two as our x-intercepts, 4 and negative 2. Now, we're not using the graphing calculator. We want to use algebra. How do I find what's in the middle of these two? We just talked about it. Add them together. So this would be my p-value of 4. This would be my q value of negative 2. And it says the axis of symmetry is just going to be p plus q divided by 2. So 4 plus negative 2 divided by 2. So that's going to give me 4 plus negative 2 is 2, divided by 2 is what? 1. So I know my vertex is going to have to be at 1, comma, because the vertex has to be in the middle of these two. Now, the vertex cannot be at 1, 0. See, this point is 4, 0, and this point is negative 2, 0. The vertex is not going to be 1, 0. How am I going to find the y value of the vertex? Yeah, plug 1 back in up here. So I'm going to do f of 1. Plug in 1 anywhere I see an x. I have to put -2, here's an x, 1 minus 4, here's an x, 1 plus 2. Evaluating this, -2 times 1 minus 4 is -3. 1 plus 2 is +3. Can anybody multiply those for me? What do you get? Quick, guys, what is that? Thank you. So 118 is going to be our vertex. Now, most of us are visual people. I'm going to graph some of these things. I know I have an x-intercept at 4. I know I have another x-intercept at -2. We know we have this vertex at 1, I'm just going to kind of estimate that. 118, there's 18. Okay? We want to know this axis of symmetry that comes down here. What's that axis of symmetry equation going to be? First of all, is this a y equals or an x equals equation? Here's our parabola. Our vertical line's x equals or y equals? X equals. And what does x equal there? 1. X equals 1. See, guys, it tells us right here. Axis of symmetry is p plus q divided by 2. So right here, we did p plus q divided by 2 when we got 1. That was the axis of symmetry. We could use our graphing calculator to help us. I still have this in here from the warm-ups. Does anybody remember how I can check that vertex? Symmetry? And does this support the answer being 118 like we got? Remember how I said it's just counting the pixels and it's going to be a little bit off? On these maxes and mins, you're always going to want to round to the nearest whole number. 118. I mean, sometimes it'll be a fraction, but very rarely. So that's good. All right. Let's come over here and do a couple of these extra practice now. We already did 1 and 2, well, at least 2 yesterday. Okay, so here we go. We're going to have to do the graphing. We're going to label the x-intercepts, find the vertex, and we're going to find the axis of symmetry. All right, so if you feel like you know what you're doing, feel free to work ahead, but I'm going to show you. So first we want to find the x-intercepts. X-intercepts are whatever make this function equal 0. Here's how I start. I say, can 4 equal 0? I can also divide both sides by 4 and just get rid of the 4. We can never divide by an x, but we can always divide by a number. So if I wanted, I can get rid of the 4. I'll do it that way. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Again, that's a constant. I'm allowed to divide by that. I would not be allowed to divide by anything that had an x in it. Okay, so now we're down to this. So what is going to make this factor equal 0, everyone? Everyone, what plus 4 gives us 0? So -4 is my 0, is my first x-intercept. All right, so let's graph that. -4, 0. Okay, now I look at this one. What minus 3 is going to give us 0? 3. So 3, 0. That's going to be our x-intercept. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now it's helpful to find the vertex. The vertex has to be in the middle of these x-intercepts. So what am I going to do to find the middle? What am I going to do, Jeremy? Okay, -4 plus 3 divided by 2. That's going to give me -1/2. Okay, so -1/2 is what I'm going to have to plug back in here. Most of the time we get whole numbers, but just working with the fraction. -1/2 plus 4 is going to be 3.5, or 3.5. -1/2 minus 3 is going to be -3.5. And I'm just going to grab a calculator for this. If I give you a fraction, or decimals, you'll be able to use your calculator. -49 is what I got. Now, if I'm going to graph this vertex, this is my vertex. These are my intercepts, X-intercepts. I need to circle some of this stuff so we can find it. X-intercept, vertex. Now, if I have to fit -49 in here, what should I make this y-axis go by to be able to fit it on? 10, yes. So I'm going to make this be -10, -20, -30, -40, -50. We're allowed to change the axis as needed. So -49 is going to be right about there. Oops, I'm at -1/2 though. Shoot. -1/2, -49, right about there. And now I can graph it. And the axis of symmetry is the last thing we want to find. That axis of symmetry is that x equals equation that comes straight down through that vertex. Do we know what that would be? What's it going to be? Will? Yes, x equals -1/2. All right, now, if this were a test, this is on the graphing calculator part, I am definitely going to check this out because I don't trust all of those fractions. Just want to make sure. So all I'm going to do is plug it into my calculator. Now, what am I going to have to make my window if I want to be able to see this -49? Am I going to have to change my x-min, x-max, y-min, y-max? What am I going to have to do, Hamza?
You have to change your y.
No, you were right the first time. My y-min, what am I going to make it?
50 or -50.
You got it. All right, so now I'm going to check this out. I'm going to look at it. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? I'm going to look at my table of values. I'm looking for these intercepts. I thought the intercepts were -40 and 30. That's good. I think this, watch what I do here. I haven't shown you this before. I'm going to check this vertex just by doing a second trace, calculate a value. I know that the x value is -1/2, but I wasn't sure about this. So watch what I do. X, let me go through it again. Second trace, calculate a value when x is -1/2. So I'm hoping that that y value is -49, and it is. Okay? Just showing you all the tricks on the graphing calculator. All right, I want you guys to start working on this one on your own. If you get stuck, just look up here and see what I'm doing. But try it on your own. First, find your x-intercepts. Okay, check your x-intercept before you go any further. So I had to say either this factor equals 0 or this factor equals 0. To solve this for x, I divided by -7. 0 divided by -7 is still just 0. I'm allowed to divide by a number, not allowed to divide by an x. I'm trying to solve for x. On this one, I just added 6. We got 6. There's our x-intercepts. All right, let's come back together now. How many of you got the x-intercept on your own? Great, about half. Okay, so now let's find that x-coordinate of the vertex. Remember, that's got to be in the middle of these. Anybody know what's in the middle of 0, 6? Everybody should know. What's in the middle of 0 and 6? What's it going to be, Gianna? You got it. Is it 3, 0? No. How do I find out the y value? Plug it in. So negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. Negative 21 times negative 3 is 63. There's my vertex. The last thing I have to find is my axis of symmetry. Gianna, do you know what that is? And I can't just say 3 though. You got it. It's got to be a line, so it's got to be x equals 3. Great. I'll go ahead and do a quick graph. I might want to make this x go by 2, 4, 6. So I'm at 0 and 6. I got to get 63 on here. I'm going to make these go by 20. Negative 20. Negative 40. Negative 60. So I got to plot this point. What do I have here? 2, 4. So here's going to be my 3 negative or positive 63 this time. Oh, 20, 40, 60. 63 is right about there. We don't have to be perfect, just pretty good. So there's 60. So I tried to go just a little bit higher than 60. I didn't want to go all the way up to 80. All right, makes sense? You know how you could check it on your graph calculator if you needed to, right? Okay, not going to take time to check that one. Okay, last problem here, guys. A softball player hits a ball whose path is modeled by this function, where x is the distance from home plate in feet, and y is the height of the ball above the ground in feet. What is the highest point this ball will reach? If the ball was hit to center field, which has an 8-foot fence located 410 feet from home plate, was this hit a home run? Explain. These are those problems that are on the end of our big ideas assignments when people are like, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know how to start those. Does anybody have any ideas of what we could do? What do you think? If we could factor it, we would, but this is extremely difficult to factor. So I don't think we're going to want to go that route. Any other ideas? What do you think, Jeremy? Okay, let's see. If the ball was hit to center field, which had an 8-foot fence located 410 feet from home plate, was this hit a home run? So that is going to help us to figure out that part, isn't it? But what about this part? What is the highest point this ball will reach? Marilyn? Toku, is that what you were going to say? Yeah, we could do negative b over 2a. That's a great idea. You know what, though? I have this handy graphing calculator right here, and I think I can make all this go away and be a lot easier. On these kind of problems, guys, you're right. Negative b over 2a is a great way to do this, but I am going to put this function into my calculator. And if you want to go that with the negative b over 2a, you can, because it will work, and that's a great idea. But I want to show you something else here. This is going to show me the exact path. Now, if I just hit graph, it's not going to look very good. See, here's when the ball starts, and here it is on its way out. What am I going to have to do with my x's if they're saying that the fence is 410 feet from home plate? So what am I going to have to make my x max? Something bigger than 410, aren't I? I'll make it 420. Okay, let's see if we can see the highest point now. Oops. There's the path of it. Okay. Still can't see the highest point. And it's asking me how high the ball goes. So what am I going to have to do? Change what? Y max, isn't it? What do you guys want to make it? Maybe, let's do 100 just to be sure. I don't know. Okay, good. We got this whole thing in here now. Okay, so how do I find this highest point? You guys were saying negative b over 2a, that's great, but what else can I do? Second trace, calculate maximum. Okay, I got to go to the left. I got to go to the right. Make sure you get to the right of that highest point. I'm going to go a little further than I even think. Enter. All right, so here's where, when it's 213 feet about from home plate, that's where it's at its highest. 25.62. Okay, so what's it say to round to? Hundredths, doesn't say. All right, so the highest it goes is 25.62 feet. All right, now, Jeremy, I think it was you. You were saying to do what to find out if it'll get out of the fence, get over the fence? Okay, and I could do that by doing 410 squared times this, blah, blah, blah. I don't really want to do that. What's the quick way I just showed you? Second trace, calculate what? A value when x is what? How far? Do I put in 8 or 410? 410. So when it has traveled in the x direction, 410, how high is it? 6.157. Is it going to get over the fence? No, because after it's gone a horizontal distance of 410, that's how high it is. It's not going to get over the fence. Somebody who's even, you know, they don't even have to be that tall. They're just going to stick their hand up at the warning track or at the wall and they'll be able to catch it. Okay? So the answer to that is no. Ball is only about 6.2 feet at 410 feet out. Okay? You feel like you can handle those problems better now when you come across them on Big Ideas? I think you will. Any questions over it? So we know how to find those x-intercepts. We're just going to plug in y as 0, solve it. That middle point is going to be that vertex and the axis of symmetry. All right, very good.